Well, welcome yourselves back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy JD. I hope you've all had a great day. I hope you've all had a great end to your week, to close out your week, to close out your Friday. Once again, we're going to be speaking about women's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because a female competitor has now come forward and spoken out against the situation she was involved in where she had to compete against another male. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, women's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu recently has been in a lot of controversy, and that's an understatement because many women in a lot of instances are finding themselves competing against other men. And one of the main organizations, NAGA, their policies have come under fire because they're supposed to tell these women before they turn up to the event, hey look, you're competing against a man who identifies as a woman, and give them the option to opt out. However, many women have come forward and said they're not even telling us or giving us that option. So these women turn up to these events, they step on the mat, they see their opponent and think, wait, hold on, something's not quite right there. And recently we just had a competition where women, and I'm sure some of you have heard about this, women decided to abandon an event, boycott the event because men were also competing. They said enough is enough. We're not doing this. And because of the reaction to it, the social media reaction, the article done by Reduxx, NAGA have now changed their policies. Great to see. We'll briefly summarize it and then we'll get into the main part of this video, obviously, where one of the female competitors speaks out against the situation she was involved in. But before we do, if you could, make sure to leave a like rating as it really helps out the video. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Share this video, comment on this video. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this article. Martial arts competition changes rules after female fighters pull out over safety fears after facing trans grapplers. Terrified female martial artists say they've pulled out of recent competitions to avoid facing much stronger transgender fighters, forcing a major organization to revise its rules to ensure trans females can now only face men. The North American Grappling Association, NAGA, said it overhauled its rules after complaints about transgender female athletes fighting in recent events. In one of its jiu-jitsu events in Georgia earlier this month, transgender grappler Carissa Griffith took home 4 gold medals. Let me say that again, 4 gold medals in women's competitions, while another, Cordelia Gregory, placed second, the feminist outlet Reduxx said. NAGA suggested that transgender grapplers were likely competing by simply ticking female in registration forms and then going unnoticed. Yeah, it's never your fault, is it? However, a number of women have come forward to complain about safety fears from uneven matchups, not all at NAGA events, that left some so scared they pulled out of major tournaments to avoid similar encounters. Jayden said she was left in tears after fighting a transgender woman at an unspecified event in July and was so devastated and afraid she pulled out of future competitions, including a NAGA one. The simple fact of the matter is that men signing up in a combat sport to fight women is absolutely unacceptable, she said. So a lot of backlash right now, and justifiably so. These organizations deserve it, and the women deserve themselves to know they're competing against other women. That is common sense. Imagine sitting here and saying that women deserve to compete against other women. They deserve to feel safe and protected. Seems like in today's world, that is too much to ask for, right? You also saw in that article that a male took home 4 gold medals. 4 gold medals. A male also finished second. What an absolute sham. This should not be happening in any sport, in any way, shape, or form. The women had enough. They abandoned the event. Well done to them. It needs to happen a lot more, because in a lot of situations when we see this go down, you see women on the podium standing there laughing and cheering, smiling. That in itself is very detrimental to the women and the sport. Imagine if every time we saw a situation, women just abandoned the event and didn't compete. More often than not, the organizations would feel forced to change their policies. It's sad women have got to do this, but I guess, what's got to be done has to be done. Now, the woman that was left in tears, as this article states, after competing against a male who identifies as a woman, Jayden Alexander, has now posted a video giving her experience of competing in this scenario, and this is what she had to say. Take a watch.
I am sure you have seen the posts about the trans-identified males who have been signing up and competing in the women's brackets at a few jiu-jitsu events over the past couple of months. Being one of the women who competed against women and spoke out about it, I just wanted to get on here and share my experience. I competed against a trans-identified male on Jiu-Jitsu 8 at a submission challenge in Marietta, Georgia, where he registered in my blue belt women's absolute division. It did not take me very long into my match for me to realize that I was not, in fact, competing with a woman. To say the experience was horrible and scary. I was absolutely in fight or flight mode, and as a seasoned competitor, I can honestly say I've never been there mentally before in a match. I've been in spots where I've been subbed, and I've never felt unsafe during a match. After my match, I literally went to the mat side while my teammates were massaging on my arms, and I just could not help but cry and look at my coach and say, that was a man. But despite winning via rear naked choke in overtime, I was devastated, to say the least, by what I had just experienced. It really negatively affected my next match. In the upcoming months, when I went to compete again, I had to self-exclude from a World Series of Jiu-Jitsu and from a women's absolute bracket at a Naga to avoid competing with not one but two trans male athletes. I kind of felt silly for not speaking up about it sooner, other than like commenting and arguing on Ansleigh's post about it. But honestly, I just didn't know what to do at first. The fear and reservations that most women have, which is to be called a transphobic bigot who just wants to hate on people. And if you know me personally, you know that is not the case at all. The simple fact of the matter is that men signing up in a combat sport to fight women is absolutely unacceptable. We don't deserve to be having to self-exclude from competitions to avoid fighting men. We deserve for there to be rules and regulations put into place that keep us safe and that protect us from these situations happening in the first place. And that is what ultimately led me to work with icons and with Reduxx to speak out about this, because it's something that needs to change, and I'm really glad that I did. Support has been so uplifting, it's been great, and the feedback is, oh my god, it's literally just been wonderful. And then the fact that Naga, not even 24 hours later, changed their policy, or revised their policy, has been a breath of fresh air.
So I'm sure you've seen the tweets or the article about trans athletes competing against women in jiu-jitsu. And as one of those females, I wanted to come on here and kind of share my experience about what happened to me in July. So I signed up for a tournament called Submission Challenge on July 8th in Marietta, Georgia. And I wasn't fully expecting to get a match because I was a purple belt at the time and there was no purple belt signed up other than me. But sometimes a blue belt will step up to fight a purple belt. So at this point, I was grateful that I had a match, until I found out later in this day that I am indeed fighting a biological male. So let's kind of get into my match and my thoughts during it was happening. So I immediately got in the clinch because I always rush in, and as soon as I clinched up, I knew something was different. They felt so strong. I was like, oh my god, this is a very strong old lady. What? So initially, I am in total panic mode. I feel their strength and I'm like, oh, I can't take them down. Better pull guard. And then I work my sweep. I get the sweep and I feel a little more comfortable. And then eventually, you know, like maybe 30, 40 seconds later, I get the tap with the Ezekiel choke. And I get off the mat, and I know I still have a second match with this person because it's a best 2 out of 3 bracket. We were the only 2 people in it, so we have to fight 2 to 3 times. So here we have the second match. I take a little different approach because I know now that this is a very strong individual, and I don't rush in. They get their grips, and I get yanked. I get yanked twice. And I'm like, this is so weird. But when they yank me, I kind of fall into a body lock. And I'm just so confused. And then they pull guard, I pass, and then I get a paper cutter choke. And then they tell the ref they didn't tap. When I originally posted this on TikTok, I received a lot of hate. And this was never about me winning or beating a trans opponent. This was about me giving a voice to other girls like Jayden and Adela who were scared in their matches. And I can't believe people actually think this is okay. If Cordelia had beaten one of these girls that day, she would have been fighting a 16-year-old biological female. The support that me and Jayden have received from this has been so amazing. And we just want to thank you guys so much for protecting women's sports and especially women's grapplers.
You know, I don't know how you guys feel about this, let me know. Because of women like this speaking out against these issues, women at these events dropping out, women like Riley Gaines and others speaking out against it, you guys voicing your opinions, me and many others making videos on this situation, all of this contributes to this whole thing. I do think the tide is slowly turning, right? Which is why I say if women decided to speak up for themselves more at these events and drop out, etc., we would see huge change. Now, obviously, with these policies being put in place, you always get the same responses from the liberals and the mainstream media. Oh, people are being banned from sport. You know, this is discrimination, when that's not happening at all. It's just now in a lot of sports now, in some states, in America and in England as well. You know, men are now required to compete in the right category, compete against other men. That's not people being banned. That is just normality being resumed, right? As we know, normality, truth, reality, common sense scares a lot of people. And then you also will get the people who look at these videos and say, wow, the woman won, so the biological advantage doesn't exist after. No, technique can override certain situations. You know, she has the technique to maneuver around this, but other women may have lost. As you also heard, you know, if another man won, he would be competing against a 16-year-old girl. I struggle to see how she would overpower him. But positively, of course, the policy has now changed, and you will see other women competing against other women and men competing against other men. I wonder how the liberals feel about this one. You know, you'll probably get protests, etc., flags out everywhere, and they'll be wearing their masks, you know, the classic attire. But leave your thoughts down below on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, what are your thoughts on the policies changing, the women dropping out of the events? I would like to know. If you have enjoyed today, then please for me also, make sure to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Share this video. But until next time, until tomorrow, it has been your boy JD. Have a great day, stay safe, and I'm out. Peace.